Welcome to a new episode of The Good Talk. Today we have Aria
Yes.
with us, and she is a singer, songwriter, a worshiper,
Yes.
bike rider.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All of it.
You're everything. But let's go ahead and start with you giving yourself a little introduction of who you are, what you do, and
Okay.
what you're passionate about.
So I am actually originally from Peru, from Lima, Peru. And then I grew up, I came here at 15. I'm half Peruvian, half Greek, but I was born in Peru. And then when I came here, it was all for music. I came at 15 with my family. And oh man, it's been crazy, because for certain things that happened, certain reasons, my mom had to leave because of a health situation. So I was here alone since 16. And, it's been a ride, but it's been amazing just meeting the people that I've met, like you and other people that are talented, and just being able to share my passion for music, for art in general here. It's been great.
So you're from Peru.
Yes.
That is wild. So you moved here when you were 15, you said?
15, yes.
With your parents?
I wish. I came here at first with my mom. My grandma stayed here for a little bit to help her out. My brother came too, but it wasn't really his vibe. He was a kid, he was like probably 12 around that time, 11, 12. So he was young, so he missed home. So he went back with my grandma, and a little bit of time after that, my mom got really sick. She fell into depression, and my parents were going through a divorce, so it was a lot. My dad, I love him to death, but back then he wasn't behaving the best in this scenario because I was here. My mom wasn't working here. My parents used to own a company back home, and certain things happened between them that my dad wasn't really providing for us here anymore, and our money was just, decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. My mom was just emotionally destroyed. And it got to a point where, thankfully, my uncle, who's a pilot, he would come here a lot to visit us. But it came to a point that my uncle saw my mom, and he was like, we have to leave. We have to go back home. This is it. Like, your mom is on the verge of like something happening to her. She lost so much weight, and it was just bad. You could just see it, and I was so sad, but at the same time, something just told me, well, back then I was like something, but now I know it was God that told me, like, you have to stay here. And I was 16, and that was a big change for me, not living with my parents, not having, let's say, the typical, like, oh, let me wake up and see my mom in the other room, or my dad in the other room, or my siblings or whatever, just kind of staying in a whole other country on my own.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That you came out here at 16 years old
Yeah.
with your family.
15, and then,
15.
Yeah.
With your family.
Yeah.
But then, things happened.
Yes.
And they just had to go back.
Yeah.
Basically. And then you had to make that choice.
Yes.
Whether you move back to Peru or you stay in the United States.
Yes. And that was so hard because, of course, I wanted to be with my mom. I was like, my mom is like my best friend, my everything. So like I was worried, but at the same time, I felt like if I was leaving, if I was going back home, yes, I would have been comfortable. I had, we had house cleaners. We had a good life back home. Here, no, you know what I mean? It was a different life. But I felt like if I went back home, I was literally going to be kind of like, I didn't want to destroy that trust that my family put in me, my grandma, my grandpa, my mom, by coming here, and supporting me. And I decided to push forward, and I begged my mom. She was not happy about it. She was like, no, you're coming. I was like, Mom, please. I have a feeling that there's something here for me. And you didn't do this for no reason. I want this to have a meaning. And you going through all this has to have a meaning. You didn't just go through this for us to go back home. You didn't just go through this for us to give up. I'm going to stay here. And trust me, I'll do my best. And the only thing she told me, which stuck with me, was basically, she said, okay, but just know that freedom doesn't mean do whatever you want. Freedom means doing what you would like to do, but knowing the responsibility that comes with it, knowing the consequences that can come with it. And that just stuck with me. And after that, it was tough, but here we are.
That is so crazy because you're so young, 16 years old.
Yeah.
So they left and you stayed out here. And what did you start doing?
Oh my gosh. My first job was a worship leader when I was like 17. Yeah. And before that, I was doing little gigs here and there, kind of like singing a song, a demo, writing for someone. And then I started worship leading, and that was my first time. I didn't grow up in church, so I didn't really know much about like, oh, there's like this kind of music that is like worship and like this and like that, and we can sing it and have fun with it, you know? I grew up back home, which is a Catholic country, so I don't go with religion, you know? I love being close to God. I love having a relationship with God, but I never grew up in religion. So going to church and seeing this relationship instead of religion with God just made me fall in love with it. But unfortunately, back then I had to stop for a bit, and I was like, okay, what's next? And thankfully, my mom could get some money back home to help me pay for studying audio engineering. And that was, man, I was gonna do that for myself because I'm an artist, right? And I was like, oh, it would be good to know about this. But when I started doing it, I fell in love with it. And one door started opening and then the next one, and then labels started calling me to engineer, to write for them, major artists. And then I was like, just seeing all these doors open, right? And I was like, this is crazy. This is what I'm meant to be doing. There's a reason why all these things are happening and just kind of like unfolding in front of me. And yeah.
Was that like a sign of relief? Just like seeing all these opportunities like opening up for you?
Yeah, because for a while I was like, it was a dry season, you know? I was like, okay, what do I do now? How do I start? And we're in LA. There's so many people that do music here that are talented. There's a lot of competition, right? And I was like, how do I stick out? What do I do to get these jobs, to move forward without compromising my body or my morals, right? And you know what's crazy? Actually, like I remember I was living with roommates back then, and one day I had no money to pay rent, and it was very little, like very little rent, but a bunch of roommates. It was very little. And I was like, man, I have no money to pay rent. I was like 17. And I was like, I don't know how to come up with this money. So long story short, I say a quick prayer and I was like, God, if you want me to stay here, give me a sign, because I see nothing going for me. That was before this door started opening. I was like, I see nothing going for me. I feel like I'm just going against the current. And the crazy thing is my roommate comes in the room and he says, there is mail for you. And I was like, what? And I wasn't on the lease because I was a minor. And technically I wasn't going to stay there for a while. It was just like a sublease. So I wasn't in the rent. My address wasn't supposed to be the one that I was in, the one that I got the mail from. And it's just crazy how I opened the envelope and it was a check. It was a deposit from an old apartment that was actually my mom's name, not my name. I wasn't on the lease. Again, I was a minor. Like I didn't need to be in the lease.
But it was
anyways.
for you or for your mom?
It was for me.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. Like, and it was exactly the amount that was due for the rent. Exactly.
It was like a gift sent from God to you at that exact same moment that you needed it.
Yes. And then I literally prayed like 10 minutes before that happened. And it wasn't like a prayer of like, I don't do prayers of like chants. I literally just talked to God the same way I'm talking to you. I talked to him and I was like, God, listen, like if you want me to stay here, then give me a sign, because I don't know what else to do. I'm trying to do everything, but it just things don't seem to change, right? And then when I got that, I started crying, but it was like of happiness. And my roommate got worried because he didn't know what was going on. He was like, are you okay? I'm like, yes. I was just like, God is so good. And like I said, it's crazy because I wasn't even in that lease. That deposit was from my first apartment in LA, it was long gone, on my mom's name. I was not on the lease, and it was exactly the amount that I needed. So I was like, how do you deny God's existence or his purpose in my life at this point, you know? So after that, I was like, okay, you gave me the sign. So now I'm faithful to you and I'm going to keep moving forward. And after that, thing after thing started happening. And yeah, he's kept me safe too, because I used to live in Hollywood Boulevard, like very close. And
it's right here.
Yes,
pretty close to where we are now.
Yes, and for the people that live here, you know that it's a beautiful place. It's great, a lot of tourists, but it can be very dangerous,
especially for women.
Yes,
out there walking alone at night.
Yeah.
I mean, even during the daytime, I think Hollywood's probably not the best place. But I mean, it's nice, but it's not what it used to be, in my opinion.
No.
But let's go back to your life in Peru.
Yes.
Right? When did you like realize that like singing and songwriting was gonna be maybe your passion or maybe a career?
You know what's crazy? When I started singing, I never thought, oh, I'm singing because I'm a singer. I would literally just sing along with the radio with my friends in the car or whatever. And then they would be like, oh, you're a singer. I'm like, huh? You know? And then I started realizing, I'm like, okay, I'm not bad at this. And one day my parents decided to get me a condenser, a mic, a condenser. I was like 10, 12. they got me a condenser, and I literally said, I was like, Mom, Dad, how do you use this? Like, I have no idea how to use it. And they were like, I don't know, figure it out. You know, they were like, we already gave you this, now figure it out. So I remember trying to connect that to GarageBand back then. And literally, like, the mic would only come out of like the left side, I think. I don't even know what I was doing wrong. You know, back then I didn't know anything of this, but I was so happy with it. And that's when I started writing my own songs. That's when I started playing guitar, playing piano, just trying to put what I felt out there. And I felt like also I love Peru, I love back home, but it's so conservative that I had so much inside of me that I wanted to say. And the only way was through music. And then eventually, my parents were always supportive, but they were like, this is a hobby. This is not something that you're going to do for a living, right? Because back home, again, they're very conservative. So it was never an option to do it for a living until they started seeing that as I was in school, like in high school and stuff, I was getting hired for events to sing, like either events for like, how do you call that in English? It's like basically events for like, let's say if you're in like a Hollywood, let's say event, municipalidad. So basically like
municipal, I think that's
yeah, maybe, yeah. So it was like stuff that was really cool. Lots of people would go, and I started like they saw money on my hand just by singing.
And you were just a kid.
Yes. And that's the thing I always say, when you follow your passion, money will come. When you're meant to be doing when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, money will follow, right? And I didn't know that back then, but I was like experiencing it. And then my parents saw that and they were like, she's making money out of like, you know, music. And one day I remember I got home from school, and I used to not really like much like high school and stuff, because I was like, I just want to do music, you know? And I would get home and I was all tired. And one day my parents called me by my name, which was rare, because usually they call me like my princess, whatever, when you're a kid, you know, princess or whatever. They're like, Ariadne, can you come here? I'm like, oh
yeah, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I was like, what did I do?
I think like Latin parents, like when you hear your full name,
yes,
you're like, oh man, I'm in trouble.
Yep. Yeah. So that's exactly what I thought. And I remember I went out in the by the living room, and they were sitting there, and I was like, what did I do now? Because I was, you know, in high school it was fun, but I used to like, back home you cannot dye your hair, you cannot dress however you want. And I would do that. So I was like, oh, what did I do now? You know, I wasn't a bad kid. I was just like expressing myself in that sense, you know. But long story short, they look at me and they're like, so we have decided something. We're talking about this and we decided something. And we just want to say, if you want to do music for a living, we're all for it. And that's when I was like, yes, like I got so excited. I still remember that moment. It was like life-changing, you know, because my whole life I thought, this is just a hobby as much as I love it. I was going to study psychology because I always felt a calling in my life to help people and just be there for people and motivate and inspire others. So I was like, I'm going to be a therapist. And, you know, that was like my second option after music. But when they said that, I got so excited. And that's why I came here.
That's how it all started.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So now fast forward to LA, your parents went back. You stayed out here, figured things out.
Yes.
Went through some turbulations.
Oh, God, yeah.
Some ups, some downs.
Yeah.
Okay, when did things start picking up when you were already in LA?
So it was when I started out studying out engineering. It's crazy how God makes things happen. Sorry, guys. God is my everything, you know? Like, because I've seen him act so much in my life. And again, it's just hard to deny it at this point. Like his existence and just the way he blesses us. But I remember I was going to school, and I would go to school like at 7 a.m. or whatever.
So you were going to school out here in LA?
And MI, in Hollywood, Musicians Institute.
Okay. But not, like, you had graduated high school?
Yes.
In Peru?
Yes. So I came here.
You graduated so early?
Yes, I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Smart.
A little bit.
Okay, so let's continue.
So one of my friends who was in my class for like some kind of, we were studying different consoles for the Studio NIF, API, SSL, there's different types. So one of my friends who was in that class with me, he comes in one day and he's like, oh, I met this guy in the street. He's a producer and he works at this studio, but I don't know much about it. Well, long story short, he ends up introducing me to this guy because he needed some Latin songs, like Spanish stuff. And that's what I was doing too. I still do, but that's how I started doing it. And it was crazy because that studio ended up being Sunset Sound, which is a legendary studio, and I had no idea. And when this guy met me, Alexi, he's amazing, by the way, that was my entry for BMG Music Publishing, which is like really big, and they do a lot of stuff for Netflix, for HBO, for MTV, you name it. So I didn't even know what I was getting into. But then I was going to school from 7 a.m., 8 a.m. to like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. And then I was going right after, I was eating a little something at home, and I didn't even have a car, scooter, nothing. And I would run to the studio to work until 3, 4 a.m. every day. And that's how it all started. And then after that gave me, thankfully, a name, because I started getting placements. I was working already with a big company, and people started calling me for engineering. And then when they would hear who I was working with and the things that I was doing, they were like, can we call you again? And then, of course, that goes along with the talent and what you bring to the table. Because I also noticed with music, it's not just about your degree. It's about what do you bring to the table that producer cannot? Or what do you bring to the table that engineer doesn't? Or what do you bring to the table as a songwriter? What can you bring to the table that is different than others out there?
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that makes you stick out here.
Yeah. So you worked with some high profile,
Yes.
some high profile projects and
Yes.
TV and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like Love is Blind.
Yes.
That I saw.
Yeah.
How do you even get those type of gigs?
Oh my gosh. So that's so I've worked with different companies. I've always been self-employed. I love working with different people, different companies, and one of the biggest ones that I worked with, and that was the beginning of everything actually.
Love is Blind?
BMG.
Oh, BMG.
So so basically it's a company that publishes this music, and what they do is sync it to this, like, let's say I'm the supervisor in Love is Blind, and I tell you I need pop songs for this scene. So these people are in charge of being like, tuk, 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 okay, here, a list of songs. And my song has been different songs that I put out have been getting picked up. So that's how it all started. And then that's how I started getting different placements and stuff, because of all the projects that I've been doing with them. And all the songs are just getting placed in movies, in shows, TV series, commercials. And then recently I produced a commercial for Microsoft. So there's been so many things just happening, and one door leads to the other, and a lot of doors are no, you know what I mean? A lot of doors shut down, and that's okay, because there's a path for everybody.
Yeah. Do you have like one memorable collaboration that you've done with an artist?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Do you have one that kind of sticks out in your mind? That one, like, oh my God, that one was like maybe my favorite.
I would say this one was cool because of also the way it happened. And it was when I worked with Afrojack. So I was literally going to Miami Beach my mom used to live there before, after all this stuff happened, and she ended up moving back to United States, and she went to Miami first. And I was going to visit her and just spending time with her. And I love Miami Beach. Who doesn't? I mean, the weather is amazing. The beach is beautiful. And I was just going there for my birthday. And then I remember I get a call, and they're like, where are you? Where are you? And I'm like, what do you mean? I just landed in Miami. I'm not in LA right now. And they were like, Afrojack is waiting for you in the studio. He needs you to write an engineer for him. I was just like, and I was at the airport with my luggage on me. I literally didn't even go to the hotel. I went straight to the studio. And
you came back?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? So you were at the airport?
Oh, no. So Afrojack was in Miami.
Oh, in Miami.
Yeah, so,
okay, I thought he was in
people,
LA.
No, these people knew that I was in Miami. So they were like, Afrojack is waiting for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So then I take my luggage. I literally changed in the airport's bathrooms or whatever. And I run to the studio. And he was such a sweet and just genuine guy. And we were writing, and we were like seeing what we could do with like depending on the lyrics that the artist wanted and stuff like that. That was a memorable one because of the way it happened, but there is a lot of names that are known out there that I've worked with, and most of actually it's interesting because the bigger the person, most of the time for me, the bigger the artist that I've worked with, the more humble they are. Okay. So, which is interesting.
Yeah. So you're saying if you met some other artists that are maybe not as big or popular, but they're not as humble, they're more brash.
Literally, yes. Yeah, many times. Yeah, which I thought it was going to be the opposite. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I met people that are big and they have their attitude or whatever, the diva thing happening. But it's mostly, I notice with the people that are not as big that are like that. Yeah. But it's a matter of how to deal with it, right? When you work with them.
Probably just starts getting into their heads, right?
Yes.
And I feel like once you're at some sort of level, you've kind of already done it all, you've been there, you've kind of already, you're used to that type of fame.
Yes. And also I feel like fame can also build you or destroy you, right? You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. I always try to, well, before I was posting certain things or whatever that wasn't really like here and there I would post a story trying to like bring some kind of motivation or something. But now I'm making, I'm like, okay, if God provided me this following, if God provided all these things for me, my career, the living that I have and everything, what am I waiting for to help his people in return? And all that influence, I try to use it for good now and try to just spread positivity, try to spread his love. And I always think like, again, fame can build you or destroy you. Whatever following you have, I just think when you do what you are meant to be doing, it will go the right way.
Yeah, I love that. So what's the process for producing music when you're writing for like Afrojack or you're working with them? What's that process like?
Yeah. So it's different for everybody, actually. So it depends. So when I write a song by myself, for example, or with other songwriters, usually I start with like either chords in a piano or guitar, or I find a beat that I like in that moment and I go off that vibe. I write to it and then I completely reproduce everything. Or if I have the chords, I have I have an idea of where I want to take the song. So I produce around the chords that I have. And then usually I start with like a melody. Like let's say if I'm writing a Latin song, it's like da 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 da. Like I just go by melodies, build the structure of the song. So verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, bridge, whatever structure you want to do, right? That's the pop structure. And after that, once I have the structure, I go for lyrics and then I record it. But everybody's different. I know people that write their lyrics before they even have the melody.
Yeah, I've always wondered like what comes first, like the lyrics or the music. In your case,
in my case,
music.
it's like that. Yes, in my case, it's definitely because I want to make the song about what the melody tells me. Okay. I want to let the melody speak before whatever. I always say this. I want to work for the song. I don't want the song to work for me because I feel like you do the most genuine songs are the ones that you work for. Because if I force a song, let's say it's a song that feels sad, but if I want to put some lyrics that don't go along with that kind of melody, then it's like, okay, this song could have been better. This song could have been more genuine. Like it could have followed the melody better. So yeah, it depends on the person too, though. Because like I said, I met people that write a whole poem and then they put it into a melody. I met people that just sometimes I come up with a melody in the shower, or I'm walking my dog and I come up with a melody and I write a song, So it just depends. It's like, it's all about, being creative and just putting your heart into it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and you write both English and Spanish,
I
right?
do, yes.
Do you have a preference?
It depends on my mood. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I kind of want to do English because it's more pop. It's two complete different vibes. And Spanish, I love it because I love to rap in Spanish. I love to sing it, and the reggaeton vibe always makes you want to dance. But let's say if I'm in a sad mood, I love to write like a ballad in English and just talk about that. And it depends. But I've done songs in Greek too. So I don't.
Wait, so how many languages do you speak?
I know. So I speak English, Spanish, and I understand Italian. And I'm learning a little bit of Armenian now. So I'm trying to speak different ones. I've sang in Armenian, I've sang in Italian, I've sang in Greek, I'm half Greek. I don't personally speak it fluently, but I had somebody who was amazing who helped me, Maria, actually, to be able to put these words out there. And basically we were like going word by word. She was teaching me so I could sing it. But now I have a whole EP in English and Greek. And that just felt so good too, because it's like part of my roots. So I could put it out there.
Knowing multiple languages, being bilingual is like a superpower?
It literally is.
Especially like
it literally is. Yes.
Yeah.
I've been called for sessions before too. Like, hey Aria, like we have this Spanish speaker and like we need an engineer for this, but nobody, like he doesn't speak English, for example. And I'm like, oh, I got you, or even to help out my friends sometimes with work and stuff like that. Like, it's so useful to be bilingual in general. And I truly believe I've met people that, like one of my friends, she's Mexican and she wasn't taught Spanish because she was born here, but she wasn't taught Spanish. And I'm like, okay, but wouldn't you want your kids to know at least a couple languages so that can help with their studies, with their work, with their career, with their future, And I always say, try to learn at least one more language. And you never know, because when you also learn a language, you learn a culture. So that's why I love learning languages, because you learn more about the culture and the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there any other language that you want to learn?
I would love to learn Greek, actually, like fluently, because I've sang it, but it's different when you sing it than like when you actually speak it. So I would love to learn Greek because I have family over there.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my name is Ariadne Kidonis, so it's fully Greek. So I would love to own up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about social media. You have over 300K followers.
Yes.
That's
Insane.
wild.
Yeah.
Like, when did you start focusing on social media and like really building that following?
Yeah. So I actually started when I was in Peru. And I was just using it to promote the concerts that I was singing at and stuff like that on Facebook. My Facebook now is in around almost 3 million, I think. I know it's crazy. I know it's crazy.
3 million followers?
But I don't even know how it...
Are they followers on Facebook?
It's like... I think on Facebook it's like either... Yeah, I think it's like not subscribers, but followers. And... I started with 0 and I started posting live streams. I started posting me playing. I started posting covers and they would just get shared. And same with Instagram, like sharing would help a lot. And then I had within like in 1 year or 2 years, basically, I had a couple viral videos. So I had one with Top Notch Idiots, which was about like it was a prank, and basically it was the gold digger prank. She's not a gold digger, basically. That was the title, something like that. She's not a gold digger, wife material, something like that. So they pranked me on that, and I didn't even know I was like having so many views online, and people still write to me because of that. And it was a crazy video too, because they even broke bottles on their heads and stuff, like the fake bottles, I was like, what the heck is going on? And that became viral. And after that, I had a video with Daniel Mack. So basically, the guy, hey man, cool car, what do you do for a living? So I did a video with him, and that blew up on TikTok, blew up on Snapchat, and just different social media.
Was this back in Peru?
Here.
Or was that was here? Okay.
That was here. And then everything just started like, boom.
Yeah, and your social media just kind of started going from there.
Yeah, and it was out of nowhere. I literally met these two people out of nowhere, and like I said, God knows. Yeah. And now I can use that influence to help, which is the beginning of everything. I was doing music to help, to have lyrics that are relatable, to even be able to speak like this. And you never know if someone out there is listening to this and they can relate to something, or they can feel stronger because of things that we overcame, and they can do it too because they're hearing this.
How do you engage with their followers? Is there someone that helps you like manage your social media, or is it all you? So
eventually I guess I'll need that. But as of now, I just love to, read their messages, and it's just sweet to see the change how you can impact somebody's life. And I don't never say like that's because of me. I give all glory to God. He gave me this name. He gave me the influence in a way, and I owe it to him, and it's all for him. So whenever I put stuff out, even if I'm talking about something about life or God in particular, I love when people write to me about it and they're like, hey, this made my day, or I needed to hear this, or just like, I didn't know what to do until you said this, or whatever it is, right? That just makes me happy.
Yeah. Do you have like any like negative comments that come your way? And how do you like handle that?
Well, I get one a lot that is like there's a particular one that I always get that is like, oh, if you're a woman, you cannot preach. And that's like a biblical thing technically, but it has to do with history, and it's like basically it's more about religion, right? And I'm like, a woman actually, the first evangelist was a woman, the woman in the how do you call it? Well, how do you call that thing? Oh my gosh, I forgot the name.
Worshippers? I don't know.
It was basically like Jesus spoke to this woman, and he said, go and tell them. So the first evangelist was a woman. So there's a lot in the Bible that people take literal when it's like, no, there's history in the Bible too. So they say, oh, a woman cannot preach. It's like, no, you have to know back then.
Is it disciple? Is that what you're thinking about?
The dwell. So basically, it was like is that how you call it? Let me Google it real quick.
Yeah, we have the information at the palm of our hands, so you can look it up real quick.
It's that place with like
Meanwhile, check out West Coast Creative Studio. We are located in Hollywood. Yes. Check us out. We have the best coffee.
Literally best coffee. So the woman at the well.
Okay.
So basically, Jesus came to this woman and he was like, look, like you have been through this, through that, without knowing her, right? He's like, you have been through this. And back then, he wasn't supposed to speak to this woman. This woman was supposed to be lower than him in rank. So he wasn't supposed to talk to her, but he didn't care about that. That's why I say I'm not a religion. I follow Jesus because I love the way he was humble and he just was all about loving people. So long story short, he tells after all this, the woman is like, you are the Messiah. It's true. Like, because everything he was telling her. And it was just evident. And he was like, go and tell people now. So the first evangelist was a woman. So then when people are like, oh, don't preach, I'm like, do you know what you're talking about though?
Yeah, that's crazy that people comment that on you.
Yeah, but at the same time, God said, my people will sing because of the lack of knowledge, because of ignorance.
Do you try to like educate people, or do you just like kind of let it go, not even try to look at those type of messages?
Depends. So when I see where they are coming from, and when they are coming from a good place, like in their heart, they truly just want to know, like, hey, how do you feel about this, or what do you think about you preaching, or whatever, I will answer to them, and I have no problem. But when they come from a place of hate, I don't respond to that, because what do I do with hate? You know what I mean? It's like the worst you can do is add more fire to the fire. I just let it cool down.
Yeah. And do you think having a big social media is important for someone else that's maybe trying to follow your footsteps? How many opportunities does it come with having like a big social media following?
Yes.
Is that something that people should focus on a lot?
I honestly think, for me, like I said, it was never something that I was like, I have to be big on social media. It was more something that came with my passion and my purpose. And if you feel like your purpose is, helping people either through God or just motivating them, and if you feel like that's your purpose, I think social media is definitely helpful, because it puts your message out there, right? But it's not needed. We can literally meet so many people even in the street and touch their hearts with a couple words, so it's all about what you think your purpose is and how you want to use that.
Yeah. And so you've worked at a lot of music studios, right?
Yeah.
What kind of music studios have you worked at that are like big that you can, like,
my gosh,
I guess, name drop?
Yeah. So one of my favorites was East West Studios. So Frank Sinatra, Lady Gaga, I think Van Halen was there too, if I'm not wrong, or that was in Sunset Sound. Justin Bieber, like a lot of big people. Like if you go on their website, they'll have all of them named, and it's beautiful because you just go in there and you feel it. Like you feel this like energy. You just want to be creative. I don't know how to explain it. It's wow. Even in like in the room number 1, that's where they did, I think, Fly Me to the Moon. So there's like a lot of history in there, and they even have like this place, basically. It's like what creates reverb naturally instead of digitally. So you can even, sometimes I would go with my friends in there and just sing, and you would hear this huge, it's like a room basically, and it's all, you can hear the reverb. And it's just cool because there's so much history, and I always believe in energy too. So I feel that energy of like being creative and just loving music and just being passionate, and that's one of my favorites. And I've worked at Sunset Sound, same thing, like amazing people working there. Prince used to have a room where I was working at, so yeah, you would get in the room, and that same piano, that was his piano too. So when I would play it, I've written so many songs that I actually got me placements in that piano. So like it's so cool when you're in those in that environment. Then Sound Factory is a good one too. Let's see.
And those are all based here in LA?
Yes, like East West is in Hollywood, Sound Factory is in Hollywood, Sunset Sound is in Hollywood. Everything used to be here back then when it comes to music and rock stars and stuff like that. This was like the main thing. And then I think because of tourists, it slowly stopped, because of course they need privacy, like artists and stuff, they need privacy. So, but there's still sessions there, it's just they keep it very like on the low. Like if I get a session with a major artist, like most of the times that I'll find out when I get there. Yeah.
And what are some projects that you're working right now that maybe you can tell us? Like, is there like some big projects or some music that you're writing?
So let me think. So I actually just started working with another company, Empath. They also do stuff with TV and stuff. So that's been fun. The Microsoft project just happened. I did a Christmas, like 2 EPs for them recently too, for Empath. I just released a song called Son of Man, which is my first worship song that I've ever released. And I'm working on, I'm about to sing the national anthem.
Where?
And so it's this event that is a Christian event for politics, basically. And lots of people like governors and these special guests are invited. And I'm so excited for that. It's just, it's something so like, oh my gosh, like I just got asked to, and again, this is how I think God opens doors. This guy I met through this event. And it was an event that was talking just in general about faith, right? Like a faith-based event. And long story short, we connected. I'm like, oh, that's amazing, you're doing politics. And basically he talks about God and Christianity in politics, and just kind of helps create that unity. And it's crazy because then the next day he texts me and he's like, hey, you say you're a singer, huh? And I was like, yeah, like here. And I sent him the song that I just released. That is my first worship song. And when he heard it, he called me the same day and he was like, I need you to sing the national anthem. Can you do it? So and this just happened last week.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
when are you doing that?
That's next month on the
Next month?
17th. I
That's
know.
awesome.
I'm so excited. Like, I'm just like, wow, you know, the way God just kept open. He always keeps opening doors. Whenever I think that's it, that's done. Like, you know, that period of like opening doors is done. No, like he keeps opening and opening and opening doors. And I also think that came from also the fact that I serve at my church, and soon hopefully I'll be preaching there as well. I do mostly worship leading, but hopefully soon the doors open so I can start preaching as well and just spreading the message and the love and unity.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're so young, and it seems like you've already done so much, and you've accomplished so much just from being
Thank
here
you.
in LA. Like
Thank
it's
you.
incredible, really. And you've worked with a lot of different people and celebrities, right? It's crazy. What are some of your future goals that you
Yeah.
have?
Whew. Man, I would definitely love to keep just that's the thing. My heart is always with helping. I just want to keep helping people, and either you know through worship or through preaching or through like having a talk. That's one of my goals. Definitely, like let's say even touring, like worship leading, and giving talks, like basically like being on panels. And I actually want to write a book soon too. So that's always been one of my goals, and I definitely want to do it before I turn 30. I don't know why. I'm 24 now, so before I turn 30, I would love to do that. Write a book about you know my story, and maybe that can impact somebody's lives and inspire. I'm all about just spreading just that motivation. And yeah, so writing my book, preaching, worship leading for even more people, and releasing more songs for God. Yeah.
And talk about impacting other people. Is there any advice you can share to other people that might look up to you?
Who? Well, I would literally, as cheesy as it sounds, like do not give up. You never know if you're in that stage in your life where if you gave up at that moment, then you will never know what's on the other side. You know what I mean? It's like if you give up, then how do you keep moving forward? It's all about move forward and then see what's going on. If you feel like whenever a door closes, I always say rejection means redirection. So whenever a door closes, that's just a no from that part, but there's something bigger for you out there. And do not give up. Just keep moving forward. Do not put your head down, and just love others. Whenever people spread hate, whenever people are mean to you, as crazy as it sounds, love them and just show them that you care, because that's the best way to fight against whatever it is. Do not answer hate with hate. Do not reciprocate that. Just love others. Do your own thing. Be original. Be original. Do not go around copying others. Do not think about, oh, people are going to say this and that. Trust me, I'm a worship leader. People can say whatever they want about the way I dress, about the way, the things I've done or whatever, the shoots I've done in the past or whatever. But I know where my heart is at. And as long as you know your heart's posture, I feel like that's what matters the most. When your heart is in the right place, the doors will open.
Yeah. Beautiful. And as far as your music goes, like how do you hope your music impacts your listeners?
Well, I hope some songs make them dance. I hope some songs can make them feel understood. You know, some lyrics that, does it ever happen to you that like you don't really understand how you're feeling until you listen to that one song?
Yeah.
That's what I want with my music. I want to have those songs that people can be like, because I heard that song, I could understand myself better. And I also want people to, with the worship ones, I want people to feel God's presence through it. So it depends on the song, right? Yeah. But mostly to bring some kind of impact in their lives in a good way. And yeah.
I love that. Is there a song that maybe you can sing for us here on the podcast?
Oh my gosh, you put me in the spot like that.
On the spot. Maybe like a favorite song, or maybe one that you like. I don't know.
Let me think.
If not, it's okay.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool if you can like maybe we have the microphones. Yeah. Like everything sounds good. It looks good.
I literally didn't even warm up before this, but let me think. Which one was this song? Oh, it's such a pretty song. It's and the angels cry, holy. Whole creation cries, holy. You are lifted high, holy, holy forever. Hear your people sing, holy to the King of Kings. Holy, you will always be holy, holy forever.
That was beautiful. That wasn't even with the. That was you didn't even warm up.
No,
Wow.
no, I didn't. I was not expecting that. I was
know.
just talking.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
It's
That was
okay.
beautiful. Wow.
It's one of my
Without a
favorite
warm up, that's
songs.
crazy.
Yeah, thank you.
That was beautiful.
Thank
Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Of course, yeah.
That was awesome.
Add some reverb to it, something cute. Oh my god.
Some like bass boost or something.
Yeah,
Maybe.
something, you know.
No, I
just
think
spice it up.
just here in person, that sounded incredible. So it's gonna sound good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your other hobbies that you
Oh my
do.
gosh. I know where we're going
Yeah.
with this.
Because
Okay.
you have a motorcycle.
I do.
And you ride bikes, which is an insane thing because
Yes.
look at you. You're just like a pretty girl.
Thank
Like
you.
you're just like such like a nice like good vibes.
Thank
and then
you.
you ride bikes,
I do.
which
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yes.
How long have you been riding bikes and doing that?
So I actually started riding bikes before I even started driving. So I learned how to, I was crazy. I was like, I don't want a car, I want a bike. My dad would always have bikes when I was little. So I was literally being taken to kindergarten on a bike. My dad, because I would love it. And I would ask my dad, I want to go on the bike. And I got so used to that feeling. And then as I was growing up, I used to do dirt biking back home. So when I came here, I was missing that adrenaline, that feeling of I need this adrenaline, right? And I was like, well, I don't have a car, but I know how to get transportation and that adrenaline. So I think I got it like around 21 years old. Like I got my first bike. I remember I sent my mom a picture of my helmet and she didn't know. And then she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Mom, you had a kid with a motorcycle rider. What did you expect? So then she was like, eventually when she saw my bike, she was like, okay, just please be careful. God has really protected me, not gonna lie. Like I've had close calls. It's interesting, but it's extreme sport, right? Because I don't ride just street, I ride canyons. So I have a suit, I have the right gear. That's one thing, guys. If you ever want to ride, please wear the right gear. Do not go cheap on the gear because that's literally your life, and that's gonna cost you more in hospitals or whatever, or that's gonna cost you more your family if you don't make it, because that's the reality of it. Like whenever I get on that bike, unfortunately, it's not about being negative, but it's also knowing that you might not come back. So
it's always a choice, right?
It's a choice.
When you're on that bike, you're about to get on that bike. It's a choice.
Yeah.
That
you have
making.
to know the responsibility that comes with it. And it is risky. That's why lately I've been trying to ride more for fun than to commute. You know what I mean? Because when you ride to commute, it's fun. But at the same time, the more you ride, the more the risk, statistically speaking, right? So I try to decrease that a little. But I always try to get my throttle high every once in a while.
What kind of bike do you have?
I have an R7. A Yamaha R7 2023.
So you gotta educate me a little bit on this because I have no idea.
Do you want me to show it to you? I don't know if I can show it to the camera.
Yeah, let me see.
Let me see.
I have no idea, no clue about bikes.
So
but I've seen on your social media,
Yes.
I've seen it on Instagram, and it's pretty cool.
Thank
But
you.
so when you mentioned it, I don't even know what it was. But let me see.
I don't know if we can show it to the camera.
Oh wow, that's cool. So what is it? An R what?
It's called it's an R7 and it's a Yamaha 2023 R7.
Let me see. If
Do you
I
want me
can
to show
this.
it? Should we put it here?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we can put it after.
Yeah, maybe.
It's
But,
okay.
Okay, so that's the bike you have now.
Yeah, that's my baby.
Is it fast?
It's fast.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's
So how fast
fast.
do
I'm
you
like,
go on
Mom,
this-
you better not be watching this, but it's very fast. Yeah.
How fast do you go on this thing?
I think the top speed is not that much. It's like 130. So it's not
That's
terrible.
pretty fast,
I mean,
still.
yeah, but like some of my friends have like they call it liter bikes when they're like over 1,000 cc, and those bikes can go over 200. So, but I think this is good for me for my height, my weight, and for the things that I want to do. This bike is actually perfect for track. Like I don't do track, but a lot of my friends do the circuits, the track. This is a great racing bike for that, and yeah, like I use it mostly in the canyons, so it's great for that sport type of riding, you know. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And
Just,
do you have a bunch of friends that also ride with you?
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Like my friends are literally either from music, church, or bikes. Like that's literally my life, right? So if I'm not doing music, I'm writing. If I'm not writing, I'm at church. If I'm not at church, I'm doing music, and you know, it keeps going. So yeah, lots of amazing people that I met through the motorcycle community. And the beautiful thing is we all support each other and we'll watch out for each other. You know what I mean? If like literally once I had an accident in Malibu, I got rear-ended by another bike. It was bad. Thank God. I honestly, again, God is good, because like I was intact. I had bruises, of course, I damaged my back, but in that moment I didn't break anything. And my friend who hit me by mistake, because he had a passenger, the passenger distracted my friend and he went into me. So basically my friend ended up with, I think, two broken fingers, like fracture or something. The girl ended up with a hole in her leg. Like it was just bad. Yeah. So it was bad, but God is good. At least I was okay. So that was my first bike. That was a Ninja 400. And anyways, when I got into that accident, it was crazy because people that were in Malibu, but also people that knew me that were in a whole different canyon that we were, literally were calling me. And they were like, we just heard from this and that. Are you okay? And I hadn't talked to anybody. But they were calling me after like 30 minutes, 20 minutes of the accident. And this just shows how close the community is. And of course, like everywhere, you can meet good people and bad people, right? But it's all about being around the people that are there to support you and just ride with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's wild, especially out here in LA. I think it's crazy because I've been driving and I just like see bikes just going through me like crazy. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Like, you don't even see them. You're like, I could have literally swerved on that. Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy how fast some people drive their bikes. And I've heard so many accidents that have happened.
They call us organ donors. For a reason.
Organ donors? Oh
yeah.
my God.
That's what
That's a wild sport or whatever you want to call it thing to do, right? Yeah. Especially out here in LA because people drive
crazy, but at least I can lane split.
Yeah.
in other places you cannot lane split. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Only in LA and
really?
I think other few places in the United States. But
isn't that dangerous though?
Yes and no. So for example, lane split is great whenever you're like at a red light, for example. If you lane split and get in the front, then no car can rear end you by mistake. Because a car might see the car in front, but not you, maybe. Because when you're a bike, you're not as big as a car. Mm-hmm. So some people see you, some people don't. So like, let's say you're in the back of the line in the red light, and then somebody can come into you, basically rear end you.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in between like two cars. No, because if someone hits this car,
exactly,
you get squished.
Exactly. Uh-huh. So that's why I'm like, I would rather lane split, and then it's of course if you lane split in the freeway, especially, I always try to do it less than 30 miles an hour, because 30 miles an hour plus you can break something. So when I lane split in the freeway and let's say the traffic is stopped, you know how sometimes people will get into other lanes, even if no blinkers, no nothing, they will just do it. I just try to be careful and watch out. And I'm glad that I started riding before driving, because now when I drive, I'm scanning the whole place. Like I'm scanning the whole street. I'm not just scanning the car ahead. I'm scanning 3 cars ahead and what's around me, you know? So that definitely helps.
Yeah. Wow. So before we wrap up, where can people find your music?
So you can find me on Spotify. You can go into my Instagram. There's a link, and you can find my Apple Music, Spotify, my YouTube channel. Everything is on there. And you can find me on Instagram like Ariadne KSP. Ariadne KSP.
So Instagram and Facebook too?
Yes, it's Facebook too. Facebook is Ariadne Quidones is my full name. But if you go to my Instagram first, you'll see my name and my last name. So if you Google that, you'll find everything. If you Google my name, you'll see all my social media. Ariadne Quidones.
Incredible. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. This is a beautiful place. I'm so happy that we got to make it finally. Guys, I was like sick. I was so sick. The time I was supposed to come here, I had no voice. I'm just glad that it happened now.
Well, I'm glad you came when your voice was good, because you sang beautifully.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I tried my best for not being warmed up. That's for sure.
I can't even imagine how you sound not with the warm up.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you once again for coming. And guys, make sure to follow Aria and subscribe to my channel.
Yes.
And check out West Coast Creative Studio. Check out this beautiful place. You could book us at westcoastcreativestudio.com.
Please
follow us on Instagram as well. And we'll see you on the next one.
Yes. Goodbye.